want to get into the experience. Because, this one's kind of fascinating me. Non-Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. Josh Allen, what's his postseason record? 4-4. Dak Prescott, what's his postseason record?
2-4.
2-4. Jalen Hurts, what's his postseason record?
I'm going to say 3-2.
2-2. Lamar Jackson, what's his postseason record?
I'm going to say 2-3.
1-3. I thought it was better than that.
Yeah.
1-3. And Purdy's 2-1. Okay, so all those quarterbacks are good quarterbacks, but they haven't won it yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as we enter the postseason with Purdy, let's say, going to the postseason, and Hurts going to the postseason, and Lamar Jackson going to the postseason, and Prescott goes to the postseason, and Josh Allen. I'm just asking, I'm just curious, how do you categorize or who has experience that's beneficial and who has experience that you hold against them, I guess is what I'm saying. Because, I look at Lamar Jackson. Okay, so he's 1-3 in the postseason. What does that mean? Well, he won one game and then he lost 3. I get
against
that.
good teams.
But I don't look at Lamar Jackson and say, well, he's 1-3 in the postseason. Purdy's 2-1, but he didn't even lose the game that he gets the loss for. I think Purdy's got an advantage over Lamar Jackson going into the postseason. I wouldn't say that just because Purdy's 2-1 and Jackson's or Josh. From
an experience standpoint,
as for Prescott, I don't think the odds are. Forget the team, I guess is what I'm saying, but I don't say Prescott is more likely to mess up than Brock Purdy in the postseason.
See, and I'm on the flip side of that because I believe he has.
He has
and
what?
Brock hasn't.
He's
had that failure to where he's had bad games.
Couldn't that be good?
You might right now. I'm not against that thought process, but I wouldn't want any of those you mentioned because, one, Lamar Jackson, I think when you're in the playoffs, you're playing better teams, and they got a plan, and that plan has been his kryptonite. Now, he can shut me up this season, but his 1-3 is 1-3. I don't think Brock, with his weaponry and his newness to this all, Steiny, I don't think he has.
So you're saying newness is a positive
as what he has around him and an offense. I think if I were a quarterback, this is heaven to be under a guy, Kyle Shanahan, and the tutelage of him calling not just plays, but calling plays to what I have around me. So I think all those guys got a jacket on him. Josh Allen, he's so great. I think he's come down to earth now because some of his failures have been in the playoffs, and he gets a little reckless and takes chances. Dak, he's got a great chance. Does he have a Niner problem? And if he does, what if they meet again and he loses to the Niners? Are we saying it's not just, you know what I mean? All those guys got warts, but Brock's so
does
new.
Purdy in a way. I mean, let me ask you this: who, when I look at the quarterbacks in the that are going to the postseason, the question I would ask is, what quarterback would be the most likely to see something in the postseason that threw him off a little bit? What quarterback of Purdy, Hurts, Prescott, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, which of those quarterbacks do you think would have the most likely opportunity to see something that confuses them a little bit, either over the course of a series, a couple series, or a quarter or two?
I'm going to say Dak and Lamar, just with their record alone.
Yeah, see, I would not.
You say that?
I would say Purdy. And it's not, again, this has nothing to do with talent. This has nothing to do with the team.
His newness.
Brock Purdy's played 2 playoff games. Let's say he's 2. He's played 2. Yeah. So, to me, even though Prescott's 2-4 and played 6,
And Lamar's 1-3, Steiny.
Yeah, so they've clearly seen some things that have
taken
made
the
them
superpowers
struggle
away. Yes.
Right. And the way I always look at it is Lamar Jackson, whatever he sees in the postseason this year, it's going to be, he'll be a little more equipped to deal with it now than he was 3 years ago.
But the case for Brock's newness that I think he was talking about is there's no book on Brock. Like no one has shown yet that they've been able to stop him or that offense when they're at full strength. There is more of a playbook of how to limit Dak Prescott or Lamar Jackson. And for Dak specifically, like the Niners did last year, it's a different team, but there's more of a script to stopping those guys as opposed to Brock Purdy.
Here's kind of what I'm getting at. Tell me if you follow.
I like that.
And it's got nothing to do with liking one guy or one team over another team. So the Eagles came into San Francisco last week and got absolutely hammered.
Well, Niners went there and got them. Yeah.
Yeah, God, thanks. Yeah. My bad. So, yes, the Niners hammer the Eagles. Okay, what happened in that game? Apparently, one of the things that happened in that game was the Niners didn't go all out to attack Jalen Hurts in terms of the rush. They played more contain. Cage, I think, is the word Baldy used, or Ross Tucker used the word. They wanted to cage him rather than attack him. Okay. What happens if they do that again in the postseason? I gotta believe that there'll be an adjustment made by Jalen Hurts. Maybe he can adjust. Maybe the strategy will have worked. But I look at it as though something happened in that game where if it happens again, he might be more equipped to succeed against it. Now, I get it. That wasn't a playoff game. But to me, the more games you have, that's the only reason. How many? Purdy's got, 20 starts in his career?
17-3.
17-3.
And the 2 playoff victories.
And I'm just saying that because he's only played in 2 playoff games, I don't necessarily think that's more of an advantage to somebody who has played multiple playoff games who maybe hasn't had the success yet of Brock Purdy or the early success, and they can do it.
My question to you would be, and not for Brock Purdy, the losers in this scenario, I'll use Dak and Purdy. When do you kind of give up? Let's say both of those quarterbacks are one and done and they add another loss on their ledger in the playoffs.
Well, they get another win?
No, a loss.
So they lose their first playoff.
Yeah, first playoff game.
Dak
and Lamar.
All right.
I'm just asking the Steiny computer.
Honestly,
you got to see what it looks like.
38-35?
Okay, right.
I
was kind of answering it for you.
I
my
do
point
care
is, when
about
do you
that.
jump off the, I've seen enough.
Well, for example, here's all I'm saying is hypothetically, if the Eagles were in a playoff game with Jalen Hurts and they got down 12, okay?
Yeah.
Well, Jalen Hurts has been down 12 before. Doesn't mean you win them all. Brock Purdy has never been down that much. So I'm not saying, you can't come back if you're not down. I understand that. But what if there's a scenario in which Purdy gets down and the game gets a little wonky and he's never been in that position before?
And it may get the best of him.
Exactly.
And he may get the best of it, right?
That's why I don't know if it's an advantage that Purdy doesn't have a book out on him yet, as opposed to a guy who might have a more complete book out on them, but has had some playoff failures.
Yeah. Well, and again, I know the playoffs are a different animal, and like Evan said, Steiny, and I'm leaning that way. We're going to see people put their best foot forward. I'll never forget Seattle with that playoff lead here at Levi's last year. Brock was still new, but I'm starting to believe this thing is so strong on both sides of everything the Niners are working with. We may be starving if people are thirsty to see the Niners down or Brock down 12. I kind of feel like that we're getting I hear you. It can happen. But boy, Steiny, what we're watching, it's going to be hard. And I think we can't hold it against Brock Purdy for being the quarterback of a good-ass team to where, you know what? We ain't seeing you down 10 or 12 too many times. It's going that way. And if they hold on to the number 1 seed, guess what, Sonny? They're going to be playing 2 games to get to the Super Bowl instead of 3. Now, you got to go out there and win. But you got me thinking I'm Linda Blair in The Exorcist. So coming into this season, I know the Eagles represented the NFC in the Super Bowl. They earned that. And they took Brock out. But are we so sure that this skid is not who they are? Because the Eagles this year. Because every win has been, even Washington took them to the end.
Right. So
the Dallas game.
So what are you saying?
Have they used up that jar of magic to where now, where they really as good as we thought they were?
I don't know.
Or the close games?
Well, we had a chance.
Are you paying that price?
Well,
now?
we had an answer. We had a chance to answer the question with the Niners. What did you think with the Niners? They were 5-0, then they went to 5-3. So the Niners have lost 3 in a row, which the Eagles. Right. Well, okay. Well, then my understanding is the Eagles are pretty hurt right now. Is that true?
Well, I mean, it depends on where you draw the line.
Well, what I'm saying is if you're saying that the 49ers got beat 3 times in a row because of injuries, I don't know. How hurt are the Eagles right now?
And I'll be real. It was because, I didn't know if Brock was regressing, but they were without their 2 best players. I don't think the Eagles are without their 2 best players. And when you got Hurts and your best lineman still, game on. But I'm not saying that defense is not raggedy. It looks raggedy right now, and that's not due to injury. It's some, but not all of it.
I guess what I'm saying is if, let's say Brock Purdy gets into the playoffs, wins a game, then loses a game, and he doesn't look good. My feeling is, okay, we come back next year, and he's better.
Yeah.
He's
kind of earned that.
Right. So why don't we give the benefit of the doubt to all the other quarterbacks who, I just don't understand giving Purdy
we give
credit.
Them to some of them, but not all of them.
That's my thing. I don't
like 2 and 4 for Dak. That's a nice amount for me.
I think it's also like Dak Prescott was singularly responsible for the Cowboys losing the game. He threw 2 picks in the first half in which they could have been up
in the red zone.
That's on him. That's not on the rest of the team.
Okay. And I think that the next playoff game he plays, he might be better because of that. I don't necessarily think, that's what I mean. I mean, how many times do we have to write somebody off or say they can't win the big one when they're only a third of the way through the race or halfway through the race? Rory McIlroy could never win the major until he won the major, and now he's got 4. And Phil Mickelson could never win the big one, and now he's got 4. And John Elway won his whole career, could never win the big one, and now he won 2. It's I
think of Matt Stafford when you say that.
Somebody's going to win a Super Bowl.
I think of Matt Stafford.
Other than Mahomes this year if the Chiefs don't win it. So
I think of Matt Stafford when you brought those guys up. I mean, because we thought he was done, right? The Rams didn't. We thought he was a byproduct of Detroit and failures. And look, he took the Niners out and went on to win a Super Bowl beating Joe Burrow. So when you bring those guys up, I'm like, yeah, you got a point. But Steiny, damn, man, you got to love hard to feel like, and could you imagine if Dak were to go win it? It wouldn't just be your boy. It would be a lot of people like, oh, we got that wrong. We thought he was notorious. He couldn't get it done.
Right. And Lamar, too. 6 playoff games. 6 playoff games, we say a guy can't get it done. And we're saying it about Lamar Jackson. And that's just the stuff that I can't stand. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, the reason to have more faith in Dak is because he's played like a better quarterback this year. But let's not act like 6 playoff games isn't a lot of playoff games.
Man.
I mean, it's not.
You have to be in the playoffs. You have to make the playoffs for that's 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, right.
How
old is Dak Prescott?
29.
Okay, how many playoff games do you think he'll end up playing? I'll bet more than 6.
But is that
from this point on?
Is that way more than the 6 games we're talking about against good opponents?
I give him a better chance to play. If he plays 6 more playoff games,
30.
I give him a better shot to play better in the next 6 than the past 6. What about you guys?
I hate you said it that way. I'll give you that because it's trending that way. But what if he faces the Niners in the second round?
Okay, I also believe that Lamar Jackson is more likely to play well in the postseason this year than, in other words, I think Lamar Jackson will win a playoff game or 2.
Well, I would hope. I mean, he's got a really good team.
But what I'm saying is, I know he's 1-3, but I haven't I'm not
he ain't looked like Lamar in those games.
I understand that, but he's not dead.
Yeah,
they're 10-3 this year. How old is Lamar Jackson?
Well, yeah, no, but I'm not saying these guys can't win Super Bowls. But okay, Lamar Jackson is 10-3. His 3 losses, he's been directly responsible for 10-point blown leads in the fourth quarter. That's the reason why some people don't believe in him. That doesn't mean that he can't all of a sudden be, Joe Flacco had a miraculous Super Bowl run. That doesn't mean that he's a better quarterback all time than, I don't know, insert quarterback, Drew Brees. They both got the same amount of Super Bowls.
Again, I'm not living in a world where experience is a negative if it's failure automatically. I mean,
because they control the narrative.
Dak Prescott, if he runs the table, he might say, "Well, I'd never win a Super Bowl unless I go through my past failures."
Right.
I needed to figure out how to overcome. Why is that completely out of the question? It feels like.
I don't think anybody's saying it's out of the question.
Well,
because they control the narrative, Steiny. For what you hate.
just said if Dak Prescott wins a Super Bowl, it'll be the most unbelievable thing. Yeah. This, that, and the other thing. Why?
Well, I think we started by saying you trust Brock Purdy more than Dak Prescott. I don't think that's a ridiculous statement.
I'll take the clean deal.
First of all, I didn't even make a statement. I said what's more important? A guy who's had playoff failure, 2-4.
And you asked me who I would take, the newness of Brock or Dak's experience.
Right. I asked you think Brock Purdy has an advantage because there's no book out on him, and he's only played 2 playoff games. And I'm saying I don't buy that. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I can't take it away from Dak Prescott that the failures that he may have gone through already will be the reason that he can overcome them this year.
What if I told you and Evan, I believe, and I got to be careful here, I believe Brock Purdy at this stage can read defenses better than Dak Prescott.
He might.
That's a lot of what would make me, I can't just put it on the playoff. Steiny, I believe that to be true. And Guru, I believe, I see it. I watch it. So, you're right.
So Purdy has an advantage over all those quarterbacks heading into the postseason.
No, I think he's on a better team.
Well,
you know what I mean? If Dak goes bad, then they're done.
But that's separate though than just confidence. Who's prepared to break through or.
But that's a big reason why you trust someone is because of who else they play with.
You know what I mean?
Who do you trust more in the postseason, Josh Allen or Brock Purdy? Forget the team.
I'm being honest. Brock Purdy. Okay. That's how down I am on Josh.
It's 4-4.
Yeah.
By the way, 4-4 is a good playoff record.
Yeah, especially in the AFC when you got to go up against amazing quarterbacks. And
he should have had one over Mahomes. The defense gave it up, but
I'm a big believer in the more big games you play in,
you're not right.
The better off you may be, even if you don't win all the big games. Could Prescott be motivated by the fact that he's 2-4 in the postseason?
No doubt.
888-957-9570 is the number. Steiny and Guru with you on 95.7 The Game. I see a couple calls. We'll get to those on the other side. 49ers, they're 10-3.
And you got to I don't want to put you on blast.
I want you to.
No, I love
because we're early.
Oh, okay. Shout out Dave Fleming. I got caught up. No, I love your premise.
No, Goo, you think guys are losers until they're not losers. And I'm just telling you, they're not losers. They just haven't been winners. They just haven't become winners yet. Dak Prescott's not a loser to me.
What I want to give you credit for is forget the name, winner or loser. What I'm trying to give you credit for is you love hard. I'm fascinated in this world we're in and what you say you hate, these quick judgments. How long before you give up on a quarterback or you say, you know what, I can understand why you say 2-5 quarterback in the playoffs can't get it done.
Well, how old was Elway when he won it?
Dude, in his 30s. Okay. It was at the end.
Okay.
But he got it done. That's rare.
Is it?
But how many times did we say Elway was the reasons he was the only reason Denver couldn't get it done?
I'll bet they said that back in the day.